Hello everyone, welcome back to Dark Souls 3 PvP Invasion Action. We're back at Sol level 10, invading it, the High Wall of Lothric. I've been trying to gather some clips for an instructional video on effective crossbow use in invasions, but I've been having a little bit of trouble. I know exactly what I want to talk about with regards to crossbows and invasions, and you know, their usefulness in PvP, but as you know, sort of like, invasions happen very organically, and I've been finding it difficult to sort of force myself into using tactics when they're not appropriate or effective, sort of for the purpose of getting clips for a video. It's something that I will definitely come back to, just so don't worry. But for the time being, think of this video as sort of a quick start guide for crossbow use in invasions. So to start off with, the main benefit to using a crossbow is that you can fit one on pretty much any build, from the light crossbow all the way up to the javelin. They all have relatively low stat requirements, and the light crossbow especially, has very low weight, so it doesn't take up a huge amount of your equip burden. The fact that that none of the crossbows actually have any stat scaling whatsoever, and their damage is based solely on their upgrade level. And the kind of bolts that you're using means that whatever build you're running, if it's like a dart build, a strength build, a dex build, or whatever kind of build, you can always make room for a crossbow, which is incredibly useful. So one of the main ways I like to use a crossbow is for harassment. Obviously, when you're invading people, especially, you know, groups, multiple people, there should never be a time when you're not putting on pressure onto a party and trying to do lots of little damage as they work their way towards you. And crossbows, I find, are really fantastic for that. Obviously, there are other weapons and tactics that are able to apply pressure to fill that niche, you know, like firebombs, throwing knives, etc, etc. But those are really either really slow or very damaging, and I find the crossbow particularly effective at fulfilling sort of that particular requirement. It has good damage, and it comes out really fast, which is the problem with something like a firebomb, is because of its wind up, and any opponent who is switched on will be able to reaction roll it, whereas even skilled PvPers will have trouble reaction rolling a crossbow if used correctly. So when I say using the crossbow correctly, first of all, that's completely subjective. You know, there is no right way to use it correctly. I mean, this is Dark Souls after all. But the way I use it fits really well with my playstyle. I will have the crossbow in my left hand, always available to soft swap, to use it as a mix-up with the melee, as well as a punishment for passivity, a punishment for giving me too much room, and a punishment for whiff attacks. What you should be aiming for is a mix-up of melee and ranged, swinging your sword when they get close and firing a crossbow as they roll away. Constantly swapping to and from your crossbow, so your opponents never get comfortable, even when they're on neutral ground, is really key. With a lot of tactics, you know, making your opponent feel uncomfortable and baiting them into making stupid mistakes is how you're going to win, really. So when you're invading, as we all know, we meet a lot of R1 and a lot of fucking parry spam, and sort of depending on what build you're running and how many people you're up against, this can be tricky and sort of even impossible to not get the shit kicked out of you by them. But this is another instance where having a quick ranged punishment comes incredibly handy. If you're being chased by a bunch of parry spammers, you can try your best to backstab fish and charge your attacks and, you know, all that good stuff. But there's only so many times that you can do that before you slip up, and an errant parry will get you one-shotted by some fucking tryhard with a chaos dagger. But with a trusty crossbow in hand, you know, there's no parrying or any of that. All they're going to do is get a bolt to the face. So my favourite tactic with these kinds of people is called the crossbow turn and burn, and it's something that I learned a very long time ago when I got invaded in the Farron Swamp, and it really stuck with me, and it's one of the tactics I use quite a lot. I've done a couple of videos on it, a couple of my older videos in Sol level 20. I'll link them in the description and in the comments, so you guys can go have a look. It's called Sol level 20 Crossbow Edition and Sol level 20 Crossbow Cheese. and you'll be able to see how effective that kind of tactic is against the parry spammers. So what you do is you unlock from the people who are chasing you and mashing parry in your face. You unlock from them and you walk away, but holding L1, so you hold your crossbow up. And as they run up to you to try and mash parry when they're expecting you to do your turn and burn, you lock on and you let go of L1 and you quickly shoot them in the face with a crossbow bolt, and they'll whiff their parry and all they'll get is a fucking shot to the face about it. And it's hilarious, and so many people don't know how to counter that, and they'll just keep trying it and keep getting fucking shot in the face. So anyway, when fighting ultra weapons, especially very competent ultra weapon users, they'll be actively looking for you to trade with them. Obviously that's sort of the key to getting those kind of weapons to work. And if they're competent players, they'll be able to sort of delay and set very interesting baits for you in order to bring you in for the big damage. Like you can weigh up the risk reward factor of trying to space that initial R1 in order to punish them. But that's not a problem with the crossbow. Obviously there's zero risk of shooting them in the face with the crossbow as long as you're out of range of that initial R1. There's nothing you can do, and nothing they can do, and all they're going to get is crossbow to the face about it. And it really shuts that kind of play right down. Again, coming back to parry spammers, if they're throwing out whiffed attacks as baits, you just shoot them in the face with a crossbow, and that it puts that kind of shit fucking to bed. They after like 5 or 6 exploding bolts to the face because they're shitty parry baits, they're gonna give up on the idea and they'll go for something else. So again, there are so many instances in which a crossbow can be used to substitute a regular melee weapon in your playstyle. Say for example, if you don't have a weapon that's very good at doing wake up attacks, a crossbow can be very good at getting people out of wake up, and sort of after they're getting up out of stun, you shoot them in the face with an exploding bolt. That could be very, very useful. And obviously we all know how frustrating it is to catch roly-poly hosts and people who want to run away from you. However, if you have a good chase down melee weapon like a spear or a katana and stuff, that pairs really, really nicely with the crossbow, because you'll get a few good running attacks on them. You might whiff a couple, and eventually the host will get away from you and he'll be fucking running back to the bonfire. And that's when having a crossbow in your left hand is very, very useful, because you can get that one extra sort of roll catch and punishment for them running away at a fair old distance, and especially if you're using exploding bolts. And again, especially at lower levels, the damage you're going to get from those exploding bolts are going to outweigh quite significantly the damage you're going to get from any kind of running attack, whether it's a katana or a spear or longsword, etc, etc, etc. So there'll be an invasion later in this video where there's a guy who just fucking gives up and he fucking runs for it, and I'll get a few running attacks on him with the sword before he eventually gets away from me by spamming roll. And he's obviously out of my melee range. All I can do is chase him, but I still have the crossbow, and I can lock onto him, and then I blast him in the back with a crossbow bolt, and he's fucking dead. Just to go back to the video, this clip was my favourite. This fucking twink. Look at him, look at this fucking scrub. Like, he's got way of blue, so obviously he's been all the way down, and he could have gone and beat Vought and done all that jazz and moved on, but no, he stayed behind to twink, and he's twinking with the way of blue. And I just fucking wreck this fucking so like, Jesus Christ, stop getting people to drop your equipment and play the fucking game, like, seriously. Anyway, sorry, salty rant over. There's so many shitty low effort twinks on the high wall, and it was just fun to put one in the fucking ground. Cocky asshole. So another reason you want to carry a crossbow, if you're up against a wizard, say, or a party with a wizard, and all they're doing is throwing spells at you, it's quite satisfying to be able to throw some shit back over the wall to them. And obviously wizards play incredibly evasively, because they decide that vigour is something that's quite dangerous, and if they have too much of it, it might kill them. So all they're going to do is spam roll and shoot their crystal soul spears. Having a crossbow to fucking punish them, and obviously, like I said, wizards have such low health. Those exploding bolts do such fucking good damage. You could take a wizard out in 2 or 3 bolts from a crossbow. and you can put a fucking stop right to their spell spamming nonsense. And it's very, very satisfying to sort of say, how do you like it for a fucking change? And again, you see this guy's gone to Freed Scythe. I don't manage to do it here, but like with these people, when they go into their edgy weapon art stance, and they're walking towards you to spam the weapon art at them, you could space them, or you could try for a parry. But if you just get your crossbow out and you shoot them in the face whilst they're doing the weapon art, and like you slowly walk backwards as their weapon advances forward, and you just shoot them in the fucking face. Like there's it's very good at neutralising other people's tactics that usually work for them. Like if they want to spam attacks or parry or whatever, you just show them that shit isn't going to work, because you're just going to punish them with the crossbow. And one of the things I found is that people do not like getting shot with crossbows. Whenever I get killed when I'm using the crossbow or stuff, I will always get pointed down and I always get shit thrown at me. Because people don't like it. People do not like getting constantly harassed by this crossbow, because not only does it do good damage, it's just incredibly annoying. Constantly having your character staggered and constantly having the controller vibrate in your hands can be very frustrating. I want to try out the splintering bolts actually, because although the damage will be incredibly low, the spread on it and it's sort of like a shotgun crossbow bolt kind of thing. I imagine that would be a very good harassment tool. Not to do any damage, but to sort of wind people up and to get them to do stupid stuff. Which, again, like I said before, this is kind of one of the tactics you should be aiming for, is that you're baiting people, you're wanting to shut people's tactics down, and you're also wanting to bait them into doing something stupid or something they're not very good at. So just one final thought before I wrap up my ramblings and my adoration of the crossbow. During invasions, you're obviously going to come up against a lot of 1v1s, and a lot of people are expecting you to do their fucking honour duel by the bonfire. And obviously you don't have to buy into that, and you don't have to sort of play that game. But if you sort of feel like you have to, like if you're surrounded by like 3 password summons and they're expecting you to fucking honour duel the host, having the crossbow at your side and being able to safely punish people and do damage to whittle down whoever you're fighting is very useful, considering you got the 30% health deficit and half as much Estus. So yeah, those are just some thoughts and sort of some tips on how to use the crossbow. Obviously, you can just watch pretty much any of my videos and you'll see me be using a crossbow, and you'll eventually get a feel for how I like to use the crossbow. I will mix it in with my melee, and at sort of mid-range I'll whip out the crossbow, and if they're sort of playing a little bit passively, I'll shoot them in the face a few times, go back to my melee, and then go and hit them with the sword, and when they're used to that, you whip out the crossbow again, you blast them again. See, I've invaded the same party again after killing him with poison, and they're down there exchanging gifts, and as soon as I get my plunge, the host disconnects. It's like, fucking Christ, like if you just let me kill you, then you wouldn't get invaded anymore until you reach the next area. So there is literally no benefit for you fucking disconnecting, apart from annoying your phantom. So yeah, I will eventually make a proper instructional video on crossbows, but just you can sort of think of this as a rough how-to guide and sort of a demonstration of how I like to how I use one of my favourite sort of utility weapons in the game. These guys were a thorn in my asshole. I tell you, they kept trying to bait me into this little room. I couldn't use the crossbow particularly effectively here, because obviously I'd shoot them in the doorway and they would just hide behind the door. Oh, another thing actually, because the exploding bolts have splash damage. So depending on how thick the walls are, you'll be able to shoot them through the walls. So if you know someone's trying to bait you in into a doorway with a charged R2, you just shoot the wall and you'll be able to do some good splash damage. So I stupidly play their game, and I come in here when I should have just tried my luck at baiting them out, and I go stand by the mimic, and hopefully this stupid fucking twink with his Dragon Slayer axe will activate the mimic, but unfortunately not. Yeah, see, he doesn't. He gets close, but I'm like, right, well, there's literally nothing I can do in this tiny room against that fucking axe and the guy swinging the mace, and he's doing decent damage with that axe because he's fucking super twinked out. And unfortunately, because of the way the sort of the matchmaking's done, he's probably like at least 10, 15 levels higher than I am. So I come back out here and I'm just like, right, okay, I'm not going in there, guys. So you can fuck right off if you think I'm gonna play your game. So it's unfortunate, sort of it comes to sort of like a waiting game, and I try and bait them out by sitting down and, you know, giving them taunts and stuff, but they're too cowardly to come out. So I work my way around, and I just go and sit and wait by the Lothric Knight until they've opened the door, and so they come flooding out, and I'm able to punish them, and they sort of go back into their hidey hole. See, that's this kind of harassment with the crossbow. Whilst they're panicking and they're trying to go through that door, and they're not really thinking, they're not looking at what I'm doing. Firing explosive bolts is fantastic. See, if you want to punish people doing stupid gestures at you, trying to point down at you, you shoot them in the face with the crossbow bolt. That is so satisfying, and it's sort of like, I hope they feel stupid doing that, because it made me feel good. Made them look stupid as well. So they get brave and they run out. They obviously want to deal with the Lothric Knight. Get rid of him, and now it's just me one-on-one with Dragon Slayer Axe Man. Try and go for a roll backstab there. Fine, fail. Wait, here we go. So he gets distracted by the Lothric Knight. Fucking tasty roll backstab. I'll swap to the Hornet Ring at this point because I knew I was going to be able to get a backstab on this guy. Walk around, fucking dead. Good job. Good job. Twink harder, please. And so this is the guy I was talking about. I kill his Phantom, and he does a runner on me, and I'll get him with a few good hits with the sword. But obviously he's a host, and he wants to run, so he's going to eventually get away from me. See there? Now he's gotten away from me. So shoot him. Try and punch the heel. Fortunately he's far enough away that he's able to roll out of it. Silver cat ring just in case. See, I was out of range of melee, so you just shoot him in the back. And obviously because he's more worried about what's in front of him rather than what's behind him, he can't see what I'm doing. So again, shoot him in the face. Or shoot him in the back, sorry. Picks up an item, shoot him in the back. Running attack, crossbow, dead. So yeah, that was my ramblings on the crossbow, and so some more Soul Level 10 invasion action, putting down some twinks and putting down some password summons. So if you have any questions about crossbow use, or you're thinking about using a crossbow, please let me know, and I'll see if I can be of any help. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you later.